a sexy magical treasure hunter moves into your house, marry him and start a religion. Tonight on the Drunk Mormon Podcast!
Oh, this is the podcast where we drink with the Mormons, strange and peculiar people they may be. Come hear the stories we were taught in our childhood. Come drink and join our eternal family. Come drink and join our eternal family.
Welcome back to the Drunk Mormon Podcast.
Welcome back.
This is the podcast where
we get drunk.
and talk about people who never get drunk.
The Mormons.
I'm David John Banks, and I was raised Mormon.
I'm Lauren Sackwich, and I've never been Mormon a day in my life.
And we're your hosts.
Hi.
Each week on this podcast, we teach Lauren a little bit more about Mormonism, whether that's stories from the Book of Mormon, stories from Mormon church history, or peculiar things that Mormons believe. And this week, we're going to learn about Emma Smith.
Oh my god, yes! Oh, yay, okay. Wow, I walked in thinking it was just gonna be business as always, just, wham bam, thank you ma'am, and it's not. It's Emma frickin' Smith.
Emma frickin' Smith. So, hey everyone, we're back in LA. We've been traveling.
It's been a long time.
We did our holiday special part 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did our little Drunk Stories clip show.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're back to business. And so we're going to talk about Emma Smith today. But first we have some business.
Oh, we do. What's our business?
Well, I mean, I've already spoiled it, but we are back in LA.
Yes, we're home.
It's wonderful to be home again.
It's so hot.
It is so hot. And it's not a dry heat.
No.
Unlike it in Utah. And Ashley's back with us.
I am.
Yay,
Hey guys.
hi.
We did visit when we were in Utah, but she wasn't there for most of our travels.
It's true.
So it's fun to all be together again.
Mm-hmm.
The band's back together.
Band's back together.
Did you guys ever see that movie, The Country Bears, that Disney movie?
No.
Yeah.
With those scary animatronics?
Uh-huh.
No.
They got the band back together as well.
I've heard.
Also, speaking of bands
Wait,
getting
are
back
we the
together, did you
Bears?
guys hear about ABBA?
No.
ABBA's back together too.
No.
Yes.
Are you
For
serious?
Mamma
Yeah.
Mia too?
I don't know if it's related.
All I know is I saw it, and
You saw Mamma Mia too?
yeah, here we go again.
You
And
know
do you
what?
want to go again?
Do you want to go again? Yeah.
I will watch the last 30 minutes over and over and over and over and over again.
I don't
have to
like
say.
ABBA. Am I wrong?
No.
There's never wrong in an opinion of taste.
Yeah.
Unless
I
you're
just
more-
does everybody like ABBA? I'm confused.
I like
everybody like ABBA?
4 ABBA songs. And then the rest I could do without.
I feel like we kind of grew up with ABBA. I feel like Mormons like ABBA.
Well, Mormons like clean entertainment,
Right.
which ABBA is because it's so substanceless.
Right.
But who doesn't love the xylophone intro of
Right.
Mamma Mia?
Right.
Dancing Queen, obviously,
Obviously.
I have to like as a gay man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's another really good one?
Fernando?
It's a good one.
Is that that's a song?
That is a song.
That is a song. What's the one? Oh, Take a Chance on Me. Duh.
Take a
Okay,
Chance
there we
on
go.
Me.
So that's the trifecta. If you have those on a playlist,
Oh.
then you're just as
Yeah.
basic as they come, but everyone is going to know the words.
Yes.
Wow, I don't know that we've had a sober tangent before. Let's get back to business.
Yeah,
We're here in LA. We're back to our normal thing. So we're together again, and we're excited because we have a lot of plans for the rest of this calendar year,
Yeah.
both in episodes and in other things.
Mm-hmm.
One of those big things is that we just launched our Patreon.
Yeah, we did.
We just launched it yesterday as of when we're recording this. If you've never heard of Patreon, it means you either don't listen to other podcasts or the other podcasts you listen to have commercial sponsorships. Patreon is basically our way of asking for your tithing donations every month.
Pay your tithes.
Pay your tithes. No,
us.
it's a way that people can subscribe to support our show.
Mm-hmm.
We are asking for $1 but feel free to give more. I think if you give $3, then we will like mail you things. You know, if you pay $1, you're a friend of the podcast. If you pay $3, you're a pen pal of the podcast. And we're going to send you notes and little gifts. It's totally optional. You can still listen to this for free.
It just helps us help you help us.
Yeah.
But what do they get other than
Oh,
being a
well,
pen
if they
pal?
didn't listen to the drunk stories, they won't know that every episode, surprise, surprise, is full of things that are cut out. Some of which to never be heard by human ears. And some of which to only be heard by the members of our Patreon community. We have a little private community now that our Patreon subscribers, pledgers I think they call it, are joining.
Where you get the best of the worst of us.
You get the best of the worst of us.
Can I share another thing that patrons get?
Yeah.
You guys get access to a private community. So as a patron, it's all private, it's all secret. If you're a patron, you can chat with all of us, you can ask questions, share your recipes, share your stories.
Yes. Share your stories with
it's
us.
better than a Facebook group.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, because we're all deleting Facebook anyway.
Exactly.
Hashtag Russian spies. Yeah, I mean, obviously we're not salesmen, but now you all know that's there. We would love if you can help us out, but we won't hold it against you if you can't. But it will help us cover the costs of doing a podcast, which turns out we don't do this for free, even though we give it to you for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let that guilt sink in. So we were in Utah. What are some of the things we did that is going to be coming up in future episodes? We toured Temple Square.
Yeah, we did.
Which there's a visitor center, there's museums. We may or may not have heard some crazy ass shit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Which we will reveal in God's own timing.
Can I just say, I wasn't there, but I have heard a few of the stories, and you guys just wait.
I can't believe one that people
I can't believe
know
our
those
faces
things.
didn't melt off and somebody didn't kick us out.
But this like nice old lady in the Church History Museum just casually drops this huge bomb. We'll come back to it. We also we genuinely made a bunch of new friends.
Yeah, they were so nice and so fun.
Like there were people we went bar crawling with. We went to a couple bars in Salt Lake City, and then we did a live
live
house show in Provo.
We got the audience to play along with us for the activity.
And speaking of alcohol and speaking of friends,
Yay!
our drink this week, Ashley.
Uh-huh.
And you're the designated driver, but you might have to try some.
Yes, you do.
We're drinking something that was given to us by a listener
Really?
who
makes
it.
her own wine.
No way.
Yes.
Okay, I'm definitely trying some of this.
Lauren has it. Can you show Ashley what we have?
Yeah, so it's some homemade wine from our very important new friend, Chelsea. Chelsea and Aaron came to our live show, and they were super fun and so excited to participate. And then, as if that wasn't enough, at the end, they walked us out to the car because we were in a dry house, if you remember. She pulled out this bottle of wine and was like, I make it myself. It's peach raspberry, I think. So I'm so excited to taste it.
Yeah.
The bottle is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of bottles, and I really like this.
So, Lauren, I'm going to give you the wine opener because if you remember when we did red wine before, I had the hardest time.
Well, I hate to tell you, if you remember when we did red wine, I bought a twist off top because I can't do this either.
Okay, well, Ashley, do you want to try?
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got
That's
it.
the one.
Is it red or white?
I think it might be white. I can't tell.
The bottle's dark
The bottle is dark.
and full of tears.
Alright. Let's get a nice...
Ooh.
Oh, I'm so excited. A little bit
taste
for
on there.
Ash.
Hey, Ashley.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm
You
so
still have to be
excited for
responsible.
this. Yeah, you still have to be the responsible one.
So, something I want to start doing is when we have someone jump onto our Patreon, we maybe include them in this part of the podcast. And even though our Patreon only launched yesterday, we already have a Patreon
Yay!
as of when I checked this morning. And if there's anyone else, I'm sorry.
Wow.
So, obviously, we want to thank Chelsea
Yes.
for
Of
this
course.
gift.
Thank you, Chelsea.
And we're
Also
going to
a-
make a toast to her, but also to Nancy,
Nancy.
our first Patreon supporter.
Nancy.
To Chelsea and Nancy.
Chelsea and Nancy. Cheers.
Ooh.
How
Ooh,
tasty.
this is great. It's like, I'm gonna taste it again.
Chelsea, how can we get this?
Yeah, how do we
And
order
how can we
this?
tell our other friends
It's like
of the
Oh, yeah.
podcast
sweet,
how to
but
get
there's
this?
also like a tartness
Yes.
to it with the raspberry. This is so good. I would sip this like out on a blanket in
Yes.
Griffith Park
Yes.
with the sun and the grass and my hot cowboy boyfriend. Let's get drunk. Guys, I fucking bought an $18 glass of wine.
Did you really?
Not on purpose.
Was it worth it?
No.
Okay, great.
I went to this place, Bibo Ergo Sum, and they had the prices listed on the menu,
Yeah.
but it was half glass prices. And I was like, who orders a half glass?
Right.
And like, they poured me like the chintziest pour and then took $18 of my money.
Wow.
No. Hello, Elder Hughes.
Are you drunk texting?
Yes. Okay, well, I have this very important question. I'm losing sleep over it.
Okay.
Okay, so here it is.
Okay.
A camel.
Yeah.
A camel's hump is hollow because it's full of water to help it cross the desert.
Okay.
If a camel crosses the desert, at the end, does the hump just kind of like swivel and fall over?
I think
Does it deflate?
It deflates? Yeah, does the hump deflate?
I think that our listeners should weigh in on this, but I have seen camels with
Deflated humps.
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's because but I saw a camel with a weird deflated hump at the Denver
Yeah.
Zoo, and I didn't know if that was because it was dehydrated,
Right.
which I feel like the zoo should take care of, or if it was
Just like a
because
natural.
yeah, they had a weird hump. Some humps are weird. Remember those drinks with the geckos on it? It was like a
Soapy,
soapy strawberry drink. And I had put strawberry vodka in it, or like a berry vodka. And then throughout the night, I had also eaten strawberries for some reason. So there was like strawberries and strawberries and strawberries.
Oh my
And I
God.
got home to my dorm, climbed up into my lofted bed, and then leaned over and puked strawberries
Oh wow.
all across the floor.
No.
It was like strawberries in strawberry slush, like fermenting in strawberry alcohol, and vomited all over the floor. And then fell asleep. And my poor fucking roommate, who I forget what her name is, she's the sweetest person. And she came home and like cleaned it all up. So when I woke up, I personally was coated in strawberries. And our room smelled horrifically of stale strawberries, and I was like, what happened? And she was like, I don't want to talk about it. She did not room with me the next year. All right, can I talk?
Yeah, I have a hangnail.
Okay. I feel like we have gotten way off topic, and I need to bring us back to the important issues of the day, which is my girl, Emma Smith.
So, we're gonna learn about Emma Smith
We're gonna
today.
learn about Emma friggin' Smith.
So the thing about Emma Smith is that there's not a lot written about her.
It's true.
No.
Also,
Okay.
similarly, there's probably more to talk about her than we can fit in one episode.
Oh,
So today will be an introduction, and we'll come back to her in more episodes to cover things. We don't have time for it today.
Great.
But she's I think one of the most diversely characterized characters in the early Mormon church history.
I want to recap. This is what we know about Emma Smith.
Okay.
Boom. She married Joseph Smith. Boom. She gets in a fight with Brigham Young? She gets in a fight with a guy, and she's like, well, maybe people shouldn't drink alcohol anymore. And he's like, well, maybe we shouldn't drink coffee either. And then now nobody can drink alcohol or coffee.
Yeah.
That's Emma Smith.
That was
Continue.
Emma Smith. I learned more about Emma Smith today
Yes.
than I've learned in the entire rest of my life.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, maybe an hour before we all shut up, I was like, I don't know if we should do an episode about Emma Smith today, because I feel like I'm not nearly qualified to paint a picture of her. And so that's why I'm saying today we're going to start the conversation about Emma Smith, but we'll keep coming back to her.
Emma Smith two-parter.
More like, we'll
At
just
least.
talk about her a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
So today we're going to talk about her because most of the time in the narrative she's not featured. So we're going to set her up, as far as our podcast is concerned, as a main character.
Woo! My girl Emma Smith!
So,
She's ferocious. She's modern.
Let
She's kind and generous.
let me pour a little bit more wine because I can hear my soberness starting to creep out. And I know that people get irritated if I'm too put together.
It's true. We've gotten
Let me just take a big gulp of this.
Take a big gulp and tell me
That
about
was a very big
Emma
gulp. I thought
Smith.
you were going to drink it all.
Okay. Emma Smith.
Emma Smith. So let's rewind the clock and go back
Yeah.
to the year 1804.
Good year.
It's a great year. On July 10th of that year,
Yeah.
Isaac and Elizabeth Hale had a little baby named Emma.
Emma.
She's born to her family. Her father, Isaac,
Yeah.
was a Revolutionary War veteran,
Oh.
which helps gives us a little context to this time period. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not too far from the generation of
The birth of our
from the
nation.
genesis of our country.
Yeah.
The family was comfortable. They had wealth, but they weren't necessarily wealthy.
Right.
And
So she's down to earth.
they had like crops and things. They also, her mother Elizabeth, sometimes would have boarders stay in their house with them. So their house would sometimes double as like a tavern or like an Airbnb kind of
Yeah.
thing.
A classy Airbnb.
Yeah. And she was educated by her mother at home, and then when she was 9 years old, they finally built a school in the town where they lived. They lived in Harmony, Pennsylvania. So this is in Pennsylvania. This is Amish country, but everybody was Amish back then.
Right.
Actually, I went to school near Amish country, and they did have delicious baked goods.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Isaac, her father,
Yeah.
had a distant relative named William Hale. And William Hale shows up
Yeah.
because a fortune teller had told him about buried treasure hidden in a hill near Isaac's home.
No fucking way.
At this time in America, this wasn't the most uncommon thing in the world.
People are finding treasures in their backyard all the time.
All the time, but also like there's people who seers,
Yeah.
and they were called peepers,
What?
which is just really funny. Oh,
That's what my papa used to call the people who drive really slow to look at leaves changing in New Hampshire. They call them peepers.
That's awesome.
I
The
also
peepers.
I have a friend whose family that's what they would call a penis.
Oh, a peeper? That's kind of cute.
It is cute,
It's a
but
little
also
peeper.
like weirdly exhibitionist. It's
Yes.
Such a
It's just
peeper.
peeping out.
Just
Yeah.
peeping out.
Okay, so they're called peepers, and a peeper told William Hale that there's some treasure buried.
Okay.
So William had a guy who was helping like fund this search, and Isaac was like, "Oh, I don't know what to think about this." But the guy who's helping William dies unexpectedly.
Ooh.
So there goes his funding source. Enter scene right, stage right, Josiah Stoll.
Josiah Stoll. He is the treasure hunter. And I thought it was funny because his last name is Stoll.
Yeah,
So
and
Josiah Stoll, he's ready.
he's ready. So he's heard about this and he's very
Yeah.
intrigued.
Yeah.
So he's like, I know this family with that are like real good at magic and finding shit. So he brings down Joseph Smith's dad and Joseph Smith, and I think maybe one of his brothers.
Wait, the whole family was like magical?
Put a pin in it. Put a pin in it.
That is
We met
sketchy.
someone in Utah who we asked if he would Skype in and specifically do an episode on Joseph Smith's treasure hunting family. And
He was
he's
cool.
super into it.
He's writing
So,
a
graphic novel.
graphic novel. He's
Nice.
penning a graphic
Super
novel.
cool.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and have him on in the
Great
next
idea.
few weeks to do an episode
liked
on
him.
the
He
treasure
seemed
hunting
nice.
family of the Smiths.
Nice.
It's going to be real
Didn't
good.
realize it was a family.
It's a
I'm so
family
excited.
affair.
This is like when you learn that L. Ron Hubbard like wrote sci-fi novels.
Right.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
None of this is taught in church.
Okay.
Let me preface that
Yeah.
before we keep going forward. None of
Okay.
this so far is taught in church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's also safe to say that almost nothing about Emma is taught in church.
Yeah. What year are we talking about? For the
18 or
So-
treasure hunting?
So she's a teenager, so
Okay.
we're talking 1820s maybe.
Got it.
Okay. So
So
Josiah,
Josiah Stoll shows up.
brings up this
because he's got some money
magical family.
and he's
Sure.
real into treasure hunting, and he
Right.
has this magic family. So Joseph Smith Sr., Joseph Smith, which is our Joseph Smith's dad, and Joseph Smith Jr., which is
our
Mormon
Joseph
Joseph Smith.
Smith.
Yeah.
He's Joseph Smith the second, right? Joseph
Yeah.
Smith Jr. They show up. They stay in
At the Smiths!
and the Hale family cabin.
Oh my god.
And that's how Emma and Joseph meet.
So they meet like Romeo and Juliet years.
Oh,
Like, we're
they
talking
meet.
Yeah.
young love.
Oh.
And so Joseph Smith meets Emma because his family is staying with her family while they treasure hunt
Right.
for her distant relative in Josiah
Oh.
Stoll.
So you know she's like, he's so sexy.
He's got
this
this
badass
magic
magic
seer
thing.
stone.
Does he have the seer stone at this
Mhm.
time?
Yeah, that's what he's doing. in
Well,
treasure
that's
hunting,
like
is seer
game
stone.
set match. He's got
Right.
the seer stone.
You guys, we just got a message
From who?
from a listener.
What does it say?
Her name is Brianna or Brianna.
Okay.
She's saying her friend just told us about the podcast and she's binging so hard in all caps.
Yay!
Heart. She's like, you guys, drunk text me whenever you want. Should we get this party started?
Yeah.
Let's drunk text her right now.
Right
We're
now.
recording an episode.
Alright, hit me with the digits. I hear you're binging the podcast. We are binging homemade wine. Okay, we're back.
Okay, so Emma and Joseph hit it off
Yeah.
and they start spending some time together. And Emma's dad does not like Joseph.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons is because they're not finding any treasure.
Yeah.
It's a good reason.
And like we'll come back and really go into the treasure hunting stuff. So we'll just sort of skip over that and keep talking about Emma. So Emma's
Okay.
dad doesn't like Joseph.
No.
But Joseph's like, I'm going to stick around. So after they're done treasure hunting, he stays in Pennsylvania and works for Josiah Stoll as like a farmer.
Okay.
So he's like working on his farm.
Josiah Stoll is very entrepreneurial.
Yeah, so he's spending time with Emma.
Yeah.
And then time goes by, and Joseph's like, "Hey Emma, do you want to get married?" And Emma's like,
I contest. I can. What was it? I consent.
Consent's very important.
Having no other better options, comma, I consent.
So guess what her dad's reaction was when Joseph.
No, you won't.
Yeah, he's like, "Fuck no," and he said at one point, I think this might have been later, but he says, quote, "I would rather follow you," meaning Emma. "I would rather follow you to the grave than have you married to Joseph."
Whoa. That's very threatening.
He fucking hates Joseph Smith.
Yep, well,
Anyway, so in 1827,
yeah.
so that means Emma is 23 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah. Which I feel like is pretty old at this time.
It is pretty old. Guess what they do? They elope.
They elope.
They cross the state line into New York and get married.
Oh.
And from there, they then move to Palmyra. So she doesn't even see her family after she gets married. She just moves right up to Palmyra. And guess what happens in Palmyra?
Polygamy.
He finds the plates.
Oh, he finds the plates!
So that's when he finally gets the plates from Moroni. Right after he gets married.
Emma Smith is good luck.
So.
Okay, so
and we might come back to that.
Okay.
So they find the plates.
Okay.
And so they're living in Palmyra. And then I think it was December of that year where they moved back to Harmony, Pennsylvania. So they moved back in with her parents.
Okay, so they get married. Boop, boop. They elope in New York.
So
they
no
run
permission.
away. And they
marries her
elope.
anyway.
And then they go to Palmyra. They dig up
find
these
golden plates. And then they're like, you know what? Let's move back to Harmony, Pennsylvania, in with my in-laws who do not like me.
Great.
You can only imagine.
They're having the best time.
When we talked about the translation of the golden plates in episode 7, we talked about how Isaac's like, well, let me see them. And Joseph Smith's like, well, you can hold this box.
Right.
And Isaac's like,
heavy.
well, fuck this. I want to open the box.
And then he buries them in the backyard.
In the forest. That's
Do
in
you
Pennsylvania.
think, like, this is like just this elaborate ruse to kind of get his in-laws to like him, and then this just like snowballed out of control?
I would say that describing Joseph Smith's life as a snowball that went out of control is probably accurate. But that's my opinion. Who knows?
We want everybody to make their own opinions. We weren't there. Records at that time.
A little shady. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Russian interference. We don't know what happened.
We don't know.
So, that's when they moved in with Emma's parents.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like where the story picks up in the traditional thing.
Sense.
So Emma's helping Joseph Smith translate the plates, and then
she
all of
gets
her
kicked
cavalry
out,
shows
all of
up.
her cavalry shows up.
And then
he does
Martin
it.
Harris shows up, all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. July of 1830. By that point, they had moved and they were staying with the Whitmers.
Yeah.
Because they were having a hard time. They weren't being financially supported by Emma's parents at all.
Right.
They were allowed to live there, but that was it. Because her dad was like not into Joseph Smith. He was not into this treasure hunting stuff. I don't know. I didn't.
I feel like, don't you like once you get married though, aren't you kind of like a unit unto yourself?
I don't know. Maybe.
Are your parents supposed to support you?
The point is that Joseph Smith,
They're
instead of having a
millennials.
normal job, was treasure hunting and translating the gold plates.
Wait, but he seems very successful. He's got these like 18 seer stones. That's gotta be worth something.
I think he had 2 at the time.
He's got 2.
So, they're staying with the Whitmers in Fayette, New York. They start the church on the Whitmer farm April 6, 1830. July 1830, God gives this revelation to Joseph for Emma, which is basically like, hey, you need to be the first lady here.
It's like, stand by.
And that's the thing.
man.
From what we can tell from historic record, which granted is limited and who knows how reliable, Emma Smith was the quintessential first lady of the Mormon Church for her entire life.
Yeah.
She was always supportive of Joseph Smith and the translation of the Book of Mormon and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And she was also like so amazingly kind and warm and generous and loving. Like one of the most compassionate people in the world.
I love that.
Maybe not the world, but definitely in the
start the
church.
Relief Society, she'd have to be like...
Which she did in 1842. That's 12 years after the church was formed. The Relief Society is formed. They delivered a manifesto and like bylaws to Joseph to be like, hey, do you approve this? And he's like, yeah, also let me like add some stuff that like God told me. And they formed the Relief Society. And initially they were going to call it like the Benevolent something, and Emma Smith was like, no, we're not going to call it that.
Yeah.
And they called it the Relief Society. She is unanimously voted as the president.
Yeah.
As the first president of the Relief Society. And the thing is we're going to get into the polygamy more, but a lot of the wives that Joseph Smith married were women that Emma Smith would welcome into her home to teach them domestic skills. She would teach them homemaking skills. Like how to cook, how to clean, how to sew, all those things. Like she was
before or after they married her husband?
Before, usually. And then they were in the home all the time, and Joseph Smith's like, hey, what are you doing here?
Do you think at some point she'd be like, I'm not taking any more students?
You would think that, except she cared about the women, it seems, more than she cared about her own needs. And that's something that shows up.
Supporting women.
That's something that shows up in the historic record is evidence that suggests that she cared about other people's welfare more than her own needs.
I like her.
And so when polygamy stuff was happening, when like crazy weird church stuff was happening, she was always making time to worry about the welfare of other women, other families, other children. For instance, her first child was named Alvin after Joseph Smith's eldest brother, who Joseph Smith adored, but Alvin died.
Aww.
And they named their first child after Alvin while it was still in the womb, but it was born prematurely and deformed and died within an hour.
Aww.
Her second two children were twins, who also were born in premature and deformed and died within the hour. But on the same fucking day, another person had twins and died. And Emma adopted those twins as hers. And it was their every intention of never telling them they were adopted, of just like saying, you're ours. But the boy died, and then the girl, I don't remember her name, you might look it up later. Yeah. She lived in, I think, until she was 42.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is a decent
Good
amount
age,
of time in the 1800s, to be honest. So we're all guilty of either putting our own needs above or under other people, and it's kind of a tricky balance to figure out, like self-care versus like being generous with your resources to other people. She never said no to people who needed things, and so some might argue that that's what made it easy for her to be taken advantage of. So Joseph Smith eventually dies.
He's
murdered. He's murdered or martyred.
He's murdered violently.
Depending on who you ask. Emma Smith is left as a pregnant widow.
Oh, she's pregnant?
She's pregnant at the time.
Oh?
Mm-hmm. And
what happened?
So not only is she pregnant, but she's dealing with the fact that Joseph Smith was they call it a trustee in trust for the church. Mm-hmm. So when he dies, his estate, his property, and his debts are all like super intertwined with the church's property as an estate and debts. And so it's like very complicated to figure out, well, what is Emma's? What does she get to keep? And what does the church own? So she has to deal with all of that bullshit too, which is very frustrating. Also, the secession crisis, which again, we will go over into more detail, but we're just going to gloss over it.
That's when the church factions.
Brigham Young takes over the main sect and is like, okay, everybody, let's go.
We're going to Salt Lake City.
To Salt Lake City that we don't know exists yet. And Emma's like, fuck you, no, I'm going to stay here with my family in Nauvoo, Illinois. She stays in Nauvoo, Illinois. Eventually, she remarries a man named Louis Bideman. I think is his name. He seems to be like a decent guy, not a Mormon. But she marries.
Wait, when did she leave the church?
Well, here's the thing. The church left her, right? They went and she stayed.
That's when she leaves.
So they leave and she stays behind.
Got it, okay.
And she doesn't agree that Brigham Young is the next leader. She doesn't like Brigham Young.
Yeah, he was a dick to her.
And other people.
And he's now the reason we can't drink.
He's the reason for a lot of things. So Emma stays behind with her family. She remarries to Louis Bideman and lives in Nauvoo. And she has a son named Joseph. So he's Joseph Smith III.
Got it.
And she wasn't the only one who stayed behind.
Yeah.
Some people chose to stay behind. Some people couldn't just make the journey.
Right. It was far. They were only taking hand carts.
And not everybody was able-bodied to make a trip like that. Or had the finances to do it, you know.
Right.
So there were other people there, and everyone kind of wondered if perhaps Joseph Smith III would be the next real prophet.
Right.
And
he's got that prophet blood.
At some point, we'll come back to this, but at some point Joseph Smith receives a revelation.
Joseph Smith
III. From God, that he is to be the next prophet and to reorganize the church from what remained after Brigham Young took everybody away. And so he is basically sworn in as the new prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, then renamed the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the RLDS. as the prophet, which eventually becomes the community of Christ.
Which is who I talked to at Sunstone.
And let me just say about the community of Christ, I think if I was born in that church, I wouldn't have left.
That community, those was so fucking cool.
They were really cool. And
We walked up,
we were
I
invited
don't know
to
if I told you
find
this.
local congregations.
Yeah, we're
So
gonna
we
go.
probably won't take the podcast there, but we'll tell you about it. We're going to go.
We
So this is officially Ashley. If you want to go, we want to go.
I do.
yeah, and there was this guy, like there was a guy manning the booth, and there was this woman over in the corner breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to the guy, and this woman comes over, and I'm talking to her, and she goes, "Oh yeah, well, I am the bishop of this church." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "I'm the bishop. Like, in this church, like, women have
The priesthood.
the priesthood. Growing up Catholic, or kind of Catholic, like, you don't realize how demeaning it is to not have a spiritual female representation as female
Yeah.
until you see it somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time I've really ever spoken to somebody. I've never met a female rabbi. I know they have those sometimes. This is the first time I ever really spoke to a female
Clergy member, yeah.
clergy member, and it was just so cool. Like, I don't, like, nice isn't the word. It was so beautiful to, like, see, like, female divinity there. It was cool.
And from my experience as like a gay man, they had a basket of buttons, and I took one that were rainbow. Because not only do they allow women to hold the priesthood and participate in their clergy, they also have no issue with gay people.
Yeah.
And like, the people we were talking to saw both Lauren and me with no, like, there
As
was
equal.
no hierarchy. We were equal. We were like just as valid as them. It was so like shocking to me in a way that was positive and illuminating at the same time. Because I grew up, and I grew up feeling like I was not, and I'm getting emotional, but like I grew up feeling like I was not equal.
Right.
As a teenager, I literally believed I was damned.
Right.
That's no small thing.
Right.
I believed I was damned, and there was nothing I could do about it. And because the whole thing about Mormonism is you spend eternity with your family in heaven, it was like, I don't get to be with my family.
Right.
I don't get to have that. I'm fucked. And if my family had been in this other sect of Mormonism, I wouldn't have had that. And I wouldn't have had all of these things that I pay to go to therapy to like work through.
It is also cool to be like, yeah, we poke fun at Mormonism sometimes, but to be like, hey, this is a cool and powerful and beautiful thing in the right hands.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have, and that's true of all religions. And like, I want to keep highlighting that in our podcast. Like, in the right hands, this thing is so powerful and important and able to connect people and able to bring joy and peace to people.
And
in the
people
right
give Emma Smith shit because she didn't follow the Brighamite sect of Mormonism. And it's like,
and Emma Smith's brand's the coolest brand.
It's the coolest one. It's like no one thought to consider that maybe she was the smartest person and saw what other people didn't see. We're gonna try and make some friends in the community of Christ and see if we can have someone come on and talk about their sect of Mormonism, because that's the other thing. And Sunstone is the symposium of Mormonism, which includes LDS, Community of Christ, the Fundamentalists, which are mostly associated with Warren Jeffs, but like there's so many other people involved in that sect of Mormonism. And I think it's really important that we acknowledge that Mormon is a term that
very broad,
that can encompass all of these different sects. It's just mostly attributed to the LDS sect, which is the one that I was raised in.
Yeah.
So we do want to have opportunities to learn about those other sects as well. Obviously, I can't speak to it versus reading Wikipedia, but we'll try and get firsthand knowledge. Anyway, Emma Smith, who even just from researching today, I'm like, is my new favorite character in Mormonism because she, and like, there's so much, and when we talk about things that specifically happen, we'll highlight her role more as now that we are kind of establishing her as the main character who we love. This is such a Cliff Notes version of her history, but she was literally the first lady of the Mormon Church. All the bullshit that happened, she had to deal with. When Joseph Smith first went to jail, the time when he escaped, She fled. And she had...
Babies!
Like, she took her kids and all her shit, and she, like, escaped. And she had under her clothes 2 bundles of papers. And according to the LDS Church, those were translations of the Bible. And according to other sources, those were documents that maybe proved that Joseph Smith was committing treason.
Oh.
And to protect him and her family, she, like, fled until it, like, cooled down, and then she, like, rejoined with her family. She wasn't elected to be the president of the Relief Society for nothing.
Right.
She was loved. So, on April 30th, 1879, she did pass away peacefully in her home.
That's an old age.
In Nauvoo, Illinois. That's
Like,
a really
what,
old
like
age.
74, 75?
She was 75 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
There's not a lot written about her. There's a book called Mormon Enigma, which seems to be the best biography about her. Like, pretty fair as far as, like, not being too Mormon and not being too anti. Because, of course, anything someone says about Mormon is either in the binary of for the church or against the church. Things can't just be facts. So I encourage anybody listening, if they want to know more about Emma Smith, go read that book. Super fucking interesting life story that we don't have time to go into.
Yeah.
Because there's one more thing we need to make sure we have time for.
The activity! The Emma Smith activity!
And this week, our activity is called 7 blank in heaven.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to be reading you some sentences about Emma Smith with a blank, and your job is to fill in the blank.
Okay.
And there's 7 of them.
Okay.
So get it? 7 blank
Like
in
in
heaven.
heaven, yeah.
So here we go.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Yes.
Question 1. Emma Smith
Yeah.
saw and touched Joseph's blank.
Dick, his paper! She touches paper!
Okay, that's probably true, but that's not the answer we're looking for.
That, I want, just note, that's a point for me though, that's correct.
The answer we're looking for is
Seer stone!
golden plates.
She touched his golden plates?
Here's a quote from Emma. I once felt of the plates, as they thus lay on the table, tracing their outline and shape. They seemed to be pliable like thick paper, and would rustle with a metallic sound when the edges were moved by the thumb, as one does sometimes thumb the edges of a book. And I should say they were wrapped in a cloth. Lauren's rolling her eyes.
And
So they were wrapped in a cloth, but she says that she touched them.
she touched them. Good for her.
She was a big validator of the authenticity of the translation of the Book of Mormon
And was, I think, to the end of her life.
to the end of her life.
Always. Always.
Number 2.
Yeah.
Not only was she a witness of the golden plates, but many Mormons don't know that Emma Smith was present when Joseph blank.
Came. No, let me think. Okay. Emma Smith was
Also-
present when Joseph died. No, that's not right. Emma Smith was present when Joseph transformed? I don't know.
She was present when Joseph Smith received the golden plates from Moroni.
Wait, what?
No fucking shit.
She was on that
I
hill?
know that.
That's... Did she see Moroni?
So here's the deal. According to my sources,
Yeah.
Joseph Smith's original intention was that Alvin, his oldest brother Alvin, who
Right.
he loved,
Yeah.
was going to help him retrieve the golden
plate.
plates.
Well, that
And
was
help him
because
translate.
Moroni said, right?
Yeah.
Moroni said Alvin will help you or has to help you. Or
But Alvin died.
Right.
And Joseph Smith was told that the person to help him the new person to help him would be revealed. And I guess Joseph Smith looked in his seer stone and it was like, guess what? It's your girl Emma.
Oh?
So I have another quote.
I did not know that.
I don't remember what this quote is from. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible historian.
Yeah.
It says, quote, "The angel Moroni told Joseph he would receive the gold plates and other hidden items in September if he brought with him the right person. After looking into the seer stone, Joseph Smith discovered the right person was Emma Hale. 9 months after their marriage, Emma drove the wagon to the hill Cumorah and waited while Joseph Smith gathered the plates. So he hikes up the mountain, talks to Moroni, gets the place. She's at the bottom of the hill in the wagon.
Oh!
This I actually did know. I actually did know that.
So it's
That's a big fucking deal to be like the
deal.
person that's the right person.
She's the fucking getaway driver for the Golden
she is.
Place.
She's so fucking cool.
Number 3.
Yeah.
Emma wasn't planning on blank when she eloped with Joseph.
Emma wasn't planning on becoming Mormon.
No.
Emma wasn't planning on having kids.
No.
Emma wasn't planning on a beach wedding.
I'll just tell you.
What is it?
Emma wasn't planning on marrying him.
Oh, I knew it! Oh, I knew
Seriously?
it! She was gonna run away in the night.
When they left, here's a quote. My folks were bitterly opposed to him, and being importuned by your father, aided by Mr. Stowell, she's talking to,
Her son.
yeah, she's talking to her son. Importuned by your father, meaning Joseph Smith Jr.,
Yeah.
aided by Mr. Stowell, the treasure hunter, who urged me to marry Joseph. And this is where we get into that quote above those paintings in the Church History Museum that don't have the context. Preferring to marry him to any other man I knew, I consented.
What?
So they're just leaving.
They like peer pressured her.
Yeah.
Where were they going?
I don't know.
They go on a holiday, and while they're on holiday, everybody's like, "Hey, you should marry this guy."
You should just do it. Just
And
do
she's
it right
just
now.
like, "Yeah, why not? We're young, YOLO."
Yeah. And then they get married, and then she continues and moves to Palmyra, New York, and doesn't go back to her fucking home and her family. Isn't that crazy?
Emma, my girl,
She
what
leaves
are you
her
doing?
furniture. She leaves her cows. I don't know what she has back there.
Things that people have. I don't know.
Okay, number 4.
Yeah.
Emma's second husband. So after Joseph Smith died, she remarried. Emma's second husband cheated on her as well.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And Emma, blank.
Shot him.
No, the answer is raised the child born from the affair as her own.
Whoa.
So Louis Bidman, her second husband, he had an affair with a woman named Nancy Abercrombie. Not Abercrombie and Fitch.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And who, as a result, gave birth to a boy named Charles Abercrombie.
Yeah.
Who, when he was 4 years old, Emma took him in and
Did the
raised
mom
him as her own child. Apparently, he married Nancy Abercrombie after Emma died because she asked him to.
The guy?
He had to have been old.
Okay, so she marries this guy, he cheats on her, he has a kid, she raises the kid, and then when she dies, he marries the other woman?
Because she told him to.
Ugh,
Who,
Emma,
told
you're
him
too
to?
kind.
According to josephsmithjr.org.
Wow.
Anyway, number 5. On her deathbed, Emma Smith denied that Joseph Smith practiced polygamy and blamed that shit on blank.
Brigham Young.
Yes!
Yes!
She said her official statement was that Joseph Smith never received revelation on polygamy. He never practiced it, and it was Brigham Young who did all that shit and brought it to the table.
She's a liar, and that's petty, but I love her.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
No one can fault her for that.
Yes.
One, way to double down. You're a true Mormon. 2, perfect scapegoat. He deserves it. Number 6.
Yeah.
Remember, there's 7 of these. 6. Emma and Brigham never really got along.
Surprise, surprise.
In fact, in 1866, so this is after they went to Utah. In 1866, Brigham Young accused Emma of trying to blank Joseph.
Emasculate. Murder.
Basically, poison.
Ooh.
Apparently, and this is apparently true, there was an incident where after dinner that Emma had made, Joseph Smith ran to out the front door and vomited so violently that he dislocated his jaw.
Oh my god. Well,
Brigham Young's like, well, because she fucking poisoned him. Here's the deal, though.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Let's bring in some context.
Yeah.
This was not the only time that Joseph Smith vomited, got sick, and not the only time that he dislocated his jaw from vomiting. In fact, there was a time before and a time after.
Yeah, he's got a weak jaw.
He's just got a weak jaw.
He's got a weak jaw. He's like out treasure hunting. You don't know what you pick up there.
So, I mean, like, it could be
Also,
true.
like, no.
It could be true.
No, because here's the thing.
But also, it might totally not be true.
Here's the thing, DJB. If Emma Smith was going to poison him, she'd poison him right the first time.
Yeah, or at least figure it out by the second time.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not doing this
Unless he's a
rehunt.
true prophet and God protected him. Okay. Last question
Yeah.
/ statement.
Yeah.
Last fill in the blank.
Yes.
Number 7. This is not the only time Emma was rumored to fight dirty.
Oh, I love her.
Though never proven,
Yes.
it is rumored that Emma Smith, in a fit of jealous rage, blank.
Emma Smith, in a fit of jealous rage, burned a bunch of pages of the Book of Mormon.
No.
Emma Smith, in a jealous rage, cut off the hair of all of the other wives.
No, but that's wonderful.
Emma Smith, in a jealous rage, drank a fifth of bourbon.
I'm going to
No,
give it
you
to
just
you.
give it to me now. I got
In a
3.
fit of jealous rage, Emma pushed sister wife Eliza R. Snow down the stairs to give her a miscarriage.
That's so, what's that movie with the girl from Saved by the Bell? Showstopper.
Showgirl?
Showgirl! That's so Showgirl.
Yeah, so the historical records at the time are inconclusive to support that this actually happened, but it is a rumor that persists that Eliza R. Snow, one of Joseph Smith's wives, and formerly Emma Smith's very good friend,
Yeah.
before her husband married her, got pregnant.
And
And
Emma Smith
pushed her down the stairs. And she miscarried as a result.
Oh no.
It could totally be bullshit.
Uh-huh.
And to be honest, I don't know whether I like it better to be true or false. Because obviously, it's not a joke to have a miscarriage. That's a horrific and really traumatic thing. But the idea that Emma Smith is such a badass that she doesn't care is such a fun departure from the narrative that's usually told about her that I'm kind of into it.
Emma Smith.
But anyway, that's our game this week.
That was a great game.
And that's our
I have
lesson.
a bonus one.
Go for it.
Emma Smith is blank.
Fun.
My bitch.
Fantastic.
Great game. Great
Well done.
lesson.
Well done.
I'd like to thank Lauren, of
Hey.
course, for jumping back in, and we're doing more podcasting.
Hey, I'd like to thank you for just keeping on.
And
we
obviously,
like to thank
Ashley for
Thanks.
keeping an eye on us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which we did not have on our traveling, but we managed to do
really
okay.
could have used. And once again, we'd like to thank Chelsea for this delicious beverage.
Oh.
And Nancy for
We drank the
jumping
whole
onto our
bottle.
Patreon so quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Nancy.
And I'm sure there's others by now. But as always, thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Drunk Mormon Pod.
Yeah.
And you can always find us on Facebook at Drunk Mormon Podcast, facebook.com/Drunk Mormon Podcast. Or just search for us on any of those things. You guys know how to use the internet. If you have questions, if there's something we forgot to say about Emma Smith, or if we got something wrong, you can always email us
Tell
a correction
us.
at drunkmormonpodcast@gmail.com. Also, we're now on Patreon. I think it's also patreon.com/drunkmormonpodcast. If you donate, you'll get access to deleted scenes from this episode, which we already know there are. And this is episode 17, but we're still pretty new.
Yeah.
And we would love it if you would share this episode with someone. And there might be someone who's I think they would really like it, but I don't know, if they're ready to hear something like this. Just send it anyway.
Yeah.
Let them make the
Let
choice,
them decide.
And give us a review on iTunes if you haven't already.
Yeah.
I know we have way more listeners than we have iTunes reviews, so come on.
Do it. It's super helpful. We
It
want to get
takes-
to the top.
We want to get to the
We
top.
want to get to the top.
And it helps people decide if this is their thing if you
Yeah.
leave a review. So if you like the show, or even if you kind of like the show, leave a review. Tell people your thoughts. And if you write it in an accent, we'll read it in an accent. But for now, I'm David John Banks,
I'm Lauren Sackwich.
and now we bid unto all
Farewell. In the name of Emma's stolen child, amen.